Hi Stampers, this is Dawn from DawnStampingThoughts.net, and we're going to make this card today. Isn't it beautiful? This is what it looks like on the inside. We had made this card at my Stampers Club this last weekend, and I left it blank so they can decide on what they want to stamp on the inside. But we're going to make the front of the card today, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you're going to use a piece of early espresso, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Then you're going to need a piece of crumb cake, and I'm cutting 2 of them. One is cut at 3 3/4 by 5, and then one is cut slightly bigger at 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Then you're going to need a piece of Very Vanilla. This piece is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and this is going to go on the inside. And then a piece of Whisper White, and this piece is going to be at least big enough to fit the leaflet framelit. So that's what we're going to use for the inside. Okay, so let's go ahead and stamp first the front of the card. Okay, so the 2 stamp sets we're using, this one's called Happy Scenes, and we're going to use this autumn scene right here. And then also Thinking of You with a Grateful Heart is going to be the front greeting. And then for the front, also we're going to use the hardwood stamp. We're going to do that first. I'm going to use the Early Espresso Classic ink, and I'm going to ink it up, the hardwood stamp. I'm going to get a piece of scrap. I'm going to lay this down here. Okay, so we're going to take the smaller piece of the crumb cake, and this was the 3 3/4 by 5, and we're just going to layer this right over top of that wood stamp. And then I'm just going to cover it with the grid paper so I don't get my fingers all inky, and rub across that stamp. Okay, that should be good. Okay. Very cute. Okay, so next we're going to take the Whisper White piece. Actually, let me take a piece of Very Vanilla. Let's do this while we get the stamp out. This stamp, it's the Thinking of You with the Grateful Heart. We're going to stamp on this with the Very Vanilla. Okay. Alright, so we're going to set this aside. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Okay, so now the Whisper White piece, we're going to use the black StazOn. And we're going to take our autumn stamp from the Happy Scenes. Now I know that some people have issues using the StazOn with the photopolymer stamps. I just find that if you hold it, you know, that 5-second rule, and maybe even longer, you really get a good crisp image, and it sticks to the paper. So I think that might scare a lot of people, but you don't want to use the StazOn cleaner with the photopolymer. For sure you don't want to do that. It damages the material. Okay, so now we're going to take that leaflet, and we're just going to kind of get an eyeball on where we want to stamp this. So I'm going to put mine like this. So I'm just going to stamp it right like this. Hopefully that's going to be good. Okay. See how it sticks? You get that suction. Okay, so now you might want to take a test run and see how this is going to sit on your framelit. And that barely sits on there, but it does work. So I'm just going to stick with that. Okay, so we're going to use 3 colors. Again, we're going to use the Daffodil Delight, Tangerine Tango, and the Crumb Cake, and then also the Early Espresso. Okay, so now let's grab our stamping sponges. And let me get that scrap paper again. Okay, so once again we're going to start with the lighter color, and we're going to sponge over the top part of the tree in the sky area. You don't have to do the whole piece of Whisper White, but you want to at least do enough where this framelit will cut it out. And if you don't, then you can always go back and add more ink. Okay, now we're going to move on to the crumb cake, and we're going to do the ground part. Okay. We're done with that one, and we're done with the Daffodil Delight. Now we're going to grab the Big Shot. Okay, so we have both of our pieces. We're going to cut out the front of the card first, and this is going to be up to you on how you want your leaf to sit on your card. You can have it sit like this, you know, however you want. I'm going to have it facing over to the left. And then this is the exact same way that we want to cut out our center part. Okay, so just make a note of that. Okay, so there's our center cut out. Okay, now we're going to cut out our scene. Remember, we have the top of the leaf going to the left side, and you're just going to position this so you get most of the scene into the leaf. I think that looks pretty good. And then we're going to go ahead and cut that out. Okay, now we're ready to do some more sponging. Okay, so since we cut it out, now we can sponge with the Tangerine Tango and the Early Espresso. Let me get those sponges again. Okay, so where the Daffodil Delight is, we're just going to lightly sponge around with the Tangerine Tango. Okay, and then we're going to do the bottom section with a little bit of the Early Espresso. Okay, so now to make this image really pop, we're going to sponge around the hardwood front and then also the inside edge of the leaf. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so now to do the inside of the leaf, we're going to take a piece of scrap and I'm just going to burnish the edges with my sponge, just like that. And really, I could go crazy on this sponging. It's so nice. So look how pretty that is already. Alright, so now let's go ahead and put the card together. It's really that simple. It's just a really simple but very wow card. So we have our base, and let me go ahead and put this very vanilla piece in the inside. Okay, now we're going to grab some dimensionals, and we're just going to start layering. Okay, so now this is the bigger piece. This is the 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Just slightly bigger than this frame here. And we're going to go ahead and pop this up on dimensionals also. Put this right over top of that larger piece of the crumb cake. Right there. Okay, so now it's just a matter of finishing this off. We're going to take the Tangerine Tango marker and we're going to color the pumpkins and then the leaves. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back side of the leaf. And then since this is the way we cut it out, it should line right up in there, and you're just going to line that up and slide that right into that cutout. So pretty. Oh my gosh. So back to the greeting. We're going to go ahead and use the large oval punch. Punch that out. And then we're going to use the scallop oval punch with the crumb cake. And I'm going to use the early espresso for some more sponging. And then just a light sponge around the greeting. Layer these two pieces together. Pop it up on a dimensional. Put that right here. Okay, so now one more thing. We're going to add some gold cording. Just going to tie a quick bow, and we're going to put that right at the base of the leaf. I don't have my glue dots handy, so I'm just going to use a little dab of the liquid multi-purpose glue. You just have to hold it there for a second. Okay. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's the other one. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you later. Bye.